What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of A State of the Eagles. This is the State of the Eagles podcast. I am your host, the big man on campus. This is episode 2. We gave this a shot last week. We're trying to build a little something here. This is episode 2, and we're talking Giants victory. We're talking Redskins coming up. Guys, we got a win last night. But as I said in the title, the win comes at a cost, and we'll talk about all that and more. Has your opinion changed on this team? We even have a little Eagles trivia to wet your whistle with, see if you guys can get them. I have some good questions for you. But let's welcome back our panel. Donnie Rightside, follow him on Twitter at RightsideVP. Donnie, we got a win last night, but it wasn't all great. It was a slow start, and it did come with a cost, as I said.
Yeah, like a pound of flesh. I mean, just you don't have to lose 5 starters every time just so you can secure a victory. But I think all three of us agreed last time out, hey, we'll see what happens. But we really don't think we're going to be able to beat the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to push to shove for Week 16. And it just got a little bit worse today, Jeff. It just got a little bit worse.
Yeah, and we'll get into what happened, who's out, who's in, what they're going to do now. Where do you go from here? Because, again, Ryan, we know that this team and Ryan, welcome in. How you doing?
Thanks, man. Good.
All right,
good to be back.
We know what last night happened. We saw what happened. Let's go over the game quickly. I said to you guys on another show that we do, I think this was one of the worst first halves I've ever seen them play. They just looked lethargic. They looked like the weather was only bothering them. Ronald Darby was getting destroyed. Carson Wentz couldn't put together complete passes in a row. The play calling was bad. Again, we're throwing 50 times a game. Ryan, I'll start with you. You have to agree that was a pretty horrific first half, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was. It was tough to watch. Boos were raining down as expected. They couldn't get anything going offensively. I mean, just could not get anything to work. Wentz was off target early, zero separation from a lot of guys other than Zach Ertz. And then defensively, I mean, just, missed assignments, miscommunication, which seems to be a theme for this team. Guys always turning around, looking, pointing fingers, and miss tackles. This secondary never has been the best tackling group dating back to, for a decade or so now. So, just a really tough first half. And I'll be honest, from what I saw, I didn't think they were going to win. They didn't do anything positive in that first half to me be like, well, maybe they could turn it around here, do this, do that, do the other. And I'm glad I was wrong, but it was definitely rough.
Donnie, there was a play last night that really I thought antithesis what the Eagles are as a football team last night. And I know you know which one I'm talking about. Darius Slayton had a touchdown, and Ronald Darby just gets blown by. Rodney McLeod has no idea where he's going, and they just kind of converge on each other and basically run into each other as he darts down the field. You would agree, Donnie, that you had no reason to believe this team would win that game last night.
No, and actually, when you saw the rain, and you're like, here, it's perfect, right? The rain and the wind comes in, which is always the ultimate equalizer in football, as is a bad football team. You want to give them a little bit of life. Jeff, how about the very first series of the game? How about a defensive end lines up and not a single person blocked him? What blocking assignment do you have as a left tackle where you look at him and be like, hey, look, there's the left defensive end. Hut, hike. Let me look down at this. Oh, nobody's down here. And it's just, right away, you're just blowing it up.
I get you have, I guess, a dude. And we're starting to get to the territory with Jason Peters that Adam Vinatieri's at. Jason Peters is hurting players. Like, he's causing injuries. He's I mean, he's got penalties every week. Carson Wentz is this offensive line's bad right now. I mean, there's a lot of pressure coming in. I mean, you have to at some point, Donnie, just agree that maybe it's time that Jason sit it down. I mean, I know you're not going to bench him. What do? You're in a rock and a hard place with Jason Peters because you're not going to bench him. He's a Hall of Famer.
You should. See,
I know you
should. That's the shitty part of sports nowadays.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago, he's on the bench. He's on the bench. But nowadays, you're paying people so much money, and then you have the he's the bodyguard. He's got this persona around the team that you're not going to bench him. But Andre Dillard should be starting at left tackle. When he filled in at left tackle, he played well. Now, when he played at right tackle, obviously it was a mess. But at left tackle, Andre Dillard has played well, and he should be in there. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, Donnie, at some point, you've got to recognize that he is hurting this team on the left side of the line. I mean, he's just too slow.
No, you're right about it, but here's what I'm not understanding here. When you talk about sometimes a quarterback's not ready to play or somebody, when you play tackle in football, right? The calls are the same, but they just switch up from left tackle to right tackle. This isn't a third or fourth round guy. You drafted a first round tackle. So now we're saying, I don't expect him to start over Jason Peters if he's healthy and that's the way the Eagles want to have it. I don't mind. But Jason Peters has been in the league about 15 years. He can't go to right tackle and play over Big V and let Dillard slide in at left tackle. I'm clearly missing something, but the fact that Andre Dillard played well at left tackle, they moved in the right tackle, and did they fry his brain where now he can't even play? What am I missing?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. I mean, that's seemingly what happens with these kids. Jeez. They're so, they screw it up and throw them in these random situations.
Well, I mean, by the way, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to point out Jason Peters after the season is an undrafted or unrestricted free agent.
Yeah. I mean, Dillard, I think Dillard too, the situation with him. I mean, if you remember before he even started that game at right tackle, he was talking, he was already down on himself. I don't know. This is difficult. The footwork's a lot difficult. It's the first time.
Yeah, the exact quote,
I'm not
Ryan,
very
was
confident.
Yeah, the exact quote he said was, well, how do you feel about going to right tackle? Imagine if you have a huge essay and you have to all of a sudden write with your left hand. I'm like, oh, my God.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah,
my
I heard
God.
that. I was like, that's not good. Right.
Yeah, but shouldn't you, I guess my question with Dillard was, and one of my issues with him coming out of college was that exact fact. He can only play left tackle. I mean, you have certain, Wisniewski can play multiple positions. You look at some of these guys, they could play multiple positions. Do you think Lane Johnson could play left tackle, Donnie, if he had to?
Yes, if you absolutely had to, which, again, if you're a rookie, you really want a rookie to hey, buddy, you're a left tackle. Let's get this right. Jason Peters should be able to make the move to be a serviceable right tackle because the harder position is protecting the backside being the left tackle. Keep the rookie over there. If he struggles, obviously you're going to pull him. But why can't, Big V gets crushed every single week. Jason Peters can't go to right tackle and just be serviceable?
And now you have major issues because your only legitimate backup right now is Halapuli Vati Vaitai. I mean, I guess Matt Pryor as well, but I mean, all of a sudden now you don't have a ton of depth. This was kind of an issue. You had too many linemen. Now all of a sudden, I mean, you basically drove Stefan Wisniewski out of here. I mean, you gave him no respect. I mean, that was really something that bothered me about the Eagles. They did not give him any credit for being what he was. And he was a good backup player. He was a guy that they inserted right in during the Super Bowl run. And all of a sudden now, Vaitai when they won the Super Bowl, he was really good. What happened to this guy? Yeah. He looks like he can't guard anybody. Point. He looks like Winston Justice out there. What happened to this guy? I mean, seriously, he's huge. He looks like remember King Dunlap, guys?
Yeah.
He reminds me of King Dunlap. He was better at times than King
honestly,
Dunlap.
I think it goes back to just 17, fellas, was just such the perfect storm. I mean, everything. It was a game of Tetris. Everything just fell into place perfectly.
Even Nelson Aguilar was a good football player.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, everything clicked that year. I mean, let's be honest. We're 2 years removed from that. Wisniewski is. I don't even know if he's on a team right now. I think he was on Kansas City earlier this year. Yeah, okay. So, and then Big V, I mean, I think you just see what you have in Big V. He's just not all that serviceable anymore.
Let me ask you a question also. You're wasting 2 roster spots on Jordan Mailata and Nate Herbig, neither of which have stressed for one game this season.
Yep.
I mean, what are you doing here with this? I remember the years where they had, Matt Tobin, Nick Cole. They had these decent backups that could David Malk they had here for a couple of years. Where did these guys go? Your Evan Mathises of the world. They don't have any legitimate backup outside of Vaitai. He's got to be a starter now. What the hell do you have here if someone goes down? You don't have anyone. Matt Pryor is not good enough. I mean, you got real issues here on this offensive line, and it's only going to get more difficult because it seems like every year this team has a major lineman either suspended or injured. So they have some concerns there. Let's talk about some good things. They did win the game, but let's go back to another bad thing. Another injury. Alshon Jeffrey, who was reported today, and we're recording this on Tuesday, he's out for the year, which I got to tell you, what an awful season by Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, he didn't do anything. He also was injured a lot, and his career is likely over in this town.
I don't know if it is, though. He makes too much money to just cut him.
Yeah,
that was the whole point. Because we're looking at moving on, and maybe you can get a trade partner, but you can't just cut Alshon. It basically would be if you cut Alshon, you eat like $13 million of dead money that season. You might as well have him. We
talked about it last week, and I'm going to stick by this. I don't hate keeping him around here, which you kind of have to, as long as the problem is you're putting a lot of your future in the hands of Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, two guys that are ridiculously injury prone and old.
The biggest problem with this team, not only wide receivers, it's as a whole, they need to get younger. They have to get. I believe they're the second oldest team in the NFL, and that is a problem. And that's part of the reason you're seeing these guys get hurt. I mean, these are 30, 31-year-old, 32-year-old players in some instances. Their bodies are just breaking down, and they have to get younger. And if they go into the season next year with, I know they're both on the books, they got to figure out something with Deshaun and Jeffrey as like two starting receivers. They have to figure something out. With me personally, I don't like that.
If their first-round pick is not a receiver, I may seriously consider not rooting for them as a fan anymore. I'm serious. You have to get a Henry Ruggs. You've got to get a player that CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, exactly. I would consider the first and third-round pick as receivers because this is
you put all this money into Carson Wentz and you surround him with dog shit.
And he's young. He's young. You want them to grow into it. You have your running back, Miles Sanders. Go get two wide receivers that are 22 years old apiece, and you have it set for the next 5 years. Exactly.
And this has been your issue our entire lives. They did it with Donnie at 5'5" as well. They never gave him any weapons. Now, granted, he shit on his leg many times, and he was inaccurate. But Donnie doesn't. I'm not going to say he's Donovan McNabb because they're two totally different players. But don't you see signs of him like low throws all the time? I'm not going to say he is McNabb, and he's a better player long term. But aren't you starting to see some shades of him in Wentz?
But you do.
Low throws.
But that's actually an Eagles. That's systemic with the Eagles front office because when you have a team and you're the quarterback, right? You're supposed to win. There's a lot of pressure on you. When you know nobody can perform, you start doing things out of character. And I point back to it. I'm going to keep doing it. Week 1, you had all your weapons, and he looked like he was having a party back there. Oh, my God, I could throw the ball 60 yards, and the guy's 5 yards behind everybody, touchdown. Oh, look at this. He runs deep. The tight end's wide open over the middle. Look at all the rushing room that we have because these wide receivers are getting deep. Everybody's open, and now all of a sudden you change. You're panicking in the pocket because you're not getting any time, number one, and nobody. Imagine dropping back, Jeff, 7-step drop. I know nobody's going to be open. I turn around, look, oh, my God, everybody is covered. It's such a systemic thing because you don't even make your reads.
I don't know where it was that I heard this. I want to say it was on one of the radio stations right here, but someone basically said last night it was basically a game of playground football. Hey, go to the go to the garbage receptacle and I'll throw it to you there. This team literally right now has one active receiver that's not hurt.
You know what I actually liked the most about last night? The very first time, and if you guys both followed me on Twitter. How about in the second half, Jeff? When we're sitting back, it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. We start throwing the lob ball one-on-one, getting flags and catches. All of a sudden, you start doing that as opposed to throwing a dart over the middle in the double coverage. Good things happen. Do it more.
Yeah, I don't understand. Doug Peterson seems to I just think
they play in a 10 by. I used to say they played in a 15 by 15 box. It's shrunk down to a 10 by 10 box. This team never takes shots deep ever.
It's weird.
I mean,
the best play of one. If nobody's open, Ryan, one-on-one, throw it 50 yards.
I don't, and I completely agree. Imagine being a defensive coordinator coming into this week, you're Washington's defensive coordinator coming into this week. You got to be salivated, thinking, okay, they're not going to take any deep shots on us.
Yep.
Okay,
so why have deep
everything
safeties
in front of us? Yeah, exactly. We just keep everything in front of us. Keep Wentz in the pocket. He's lethal outside of it, which is another just coaching decision that I'm starting to get pissed off with. with is them just limiting him inside the pocket, which is I could talk hours about that. It's a problem.
They've got to go out and get an outside source in here offensively.
Henry Ruggs.
No, I'm not talking about players.
Okay.
I'm talking about some kind of coach. They've got to get a more hands-on coordinator.
That's what I said.
Yep,
that's what I've said.
I don't think they
someone
will.
outside the system. Outside the system.
Yeah, because not for nothing, like I hate this offense. I hated the Chip Kelly offense, but I hate this one pretty bad too.
But do you remember how fun this offense was in 2017?
Yeah,
think about it. I know it was 2 years ago, and we have this sour taste in our mouth right now. But that team was scoring 28 to 30 points per game.
Look who they had at receiver.
Firepower out the ass. And that team was fun to watch offensively.
Think about this team. Think about if next year you come into the season with Henry Ruggs, Deshaun, Alshon, go out and get some guy out. I'm not saying you need to get Devontae Parker, but give me
no, that's where you take a fourth round flyer.
Yeah,
this draft is so deep. Like, hey, this guy's just fast, and we can teach him. There's so many guys like that.
So and then you have Sanders in the backfield. You got Carson Wentz. I'll tell you another thing you've got to do.
A young kick returner, returner.
And look, I don't even mind the Boston Scott. Keep him back there. He's electric. One thing they have to do. I know you don't like Boston Scott, but but you've got to also get some depth on this offensive line. I mean, you've got to stop why does this team, last thing I say on the offensive line, do they not value guards? Like, I don't think they value guards. Like, I remember when Evan Mathis was
they spent a lot of Brandon Brooks, the highest paid guard, so they do value guards.
I'm talking about the other guard. Like, it seems like the left
guard.
Yeah. They love Sayamalu, and I don't understand why.
I don't hate him either, but
whoever tells them hey, this guy's having a good year, he's playing real well. Christ Almighty, that guy's delusional. I hope it's not Stoutland.
I would relate it to when the Phillies got Ben Revere. Who were the people that said Ben Revere was a good baseball player? Who was the people that decided that?
I hear you.
Phillies, for whatever reason, decided that he was good enough. But yeah, going into this game on Sunday, you got the Redskins down in Landover, which, by the way, major shithole if you've never been there.
Yep, Eagles how bad the Eagles are this year, it'll still be 65 to 70% Eagles.
Well, I'm just saying though, if anyone ever says to you, hey, you want to go to Landover to see the Eagles?
I went twice. Yeah,
it's terrible. It is horrific.
Biggest stadium in the NFL.
Yep. And I used to go back when they actually weren't even cutting down and putting the big tarps. It's just one huge concrete bowl with steel seats back in the day, man.
And you park in open fields and just there's no lighting. It's
one way in, one way out. Expensive as hell. Uh-huh.
Yeah, really
awful.
It's terrible. But going into this game, okay, Arcega-Whiteside looks like he's okay, but outside of him, your other receiver's Greg Ward. Okay, you moved on from Matt Collins. We have to admit by tomorrow Jordan Matthews is back here, right?
Why isn't he back already? I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
Why is he not in the building with a playbook? Because we didn't play Sunday. We played Monday.
Yeah. I don't understand that either. It's kind of odd.
I also don't understand the whole dragging out the whole injury situation, this whole day-to-day, week-to-week bullshit. We know Alshon Jeffrey is out for the year, Doug. You can fucking say it.
Yeah. We don't have to wait on one more report from a doctor to know that.
Exactly.
And Lane Johnson is too. Lane
Johnson's got a high ankle sprain. Lane Johnson will be lucky to be ready for the Dallas game.
And the thing is,
was sprained last year. Actually, it only missed one game and played through it. So if that's worth anything, I don't know.
Well, he better get back quickly because Brandon Brooks is not the same player without him.
You know what? Good point. Brandon Brooks might not even be ready to play this Sunday. And I'm not cracking on him because he obviously
I know what you're saying.
has a disability here. But this is realistic where all of a sudden Lane Johnson might not be on the train because usually injured players don't travel, and Brandon Brooks gets real upset, and next year he can't go now. That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
And you guys can tell me more. If I say anything stupid here, tell me. I'm going to guess when they go to hotels, do they have roommates or are they all alone?
Yes, they
have roommates.
I'm going to guess
usually the quarterback gets a separate room, but most of the players get room.
I'm going to guess those two room together too.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
I think we have to start every time something
they got to bring it. So basically, they got to bring usually when you're injured and not playing, you don't travel with the team. They have to bring him. They have.
This is a good comparison. When I was younger, and Ryan, you saw them. Ryan, my father used to have horses. We had two horses, Peaches and Pepper. And my dad loved these horses. He literally created this meadow for them. Their barn was nicer than like any barn you ever see. Like he loved these two horses. And I remember one time one of them got loose and we couldn't find one. The other horse bucked and went nuts. Like it was wild how like dependent they were on each other.
Yeah.
And you think about that almost like with those two linemen, like he expects him to be there. And that's how they expect
that's your safety blanket.
Yeah. It's got to be tough. And nowadays with Brandon Brooks, every time something happens with Lane Johnson or Kelsey, God forbid Kelsey ever retires.
Right.
This guy, and there's nothing wrong with admitting this. We know he's got anxiety. This is something we have to now think about with him because he's not like every other player that just you plug in whoever. It's a concern, man. I mean, let's hope he comes back this year. And we've seen what this team is without Lane Johnson. I think the record's like
they're terrible.
It was like 1-9 or something. Wasn't it crazy? Something like that.
Remember when he was suspended?
Really dropped.
Yeah, when he was suspended.
Multiple suspensions,
Yeah, it's a concern. So yeah, that's something you got to worry about as well. We didn't even get to the defense yet. Again, Ryan and Donnie, last night, I'll start with you, Ryan. Again, no pressure. I mean, this is not a good offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
what is the issue there?
It's an every week thing too at this point. What really stood out to me is I think back to 2 weeks ago in that Miami game, like we talked about, where they got early pressure. I mean, pressure. And then it's like they stopped playing. I mean, it's just mind-blowing to me that they can't get any sort of pressure when they know, especially last night, when you know that you have Eli Manning back there. Like that one sack that Vinny Curry had, I'm not even sure he touched him, and Eli fell down. Like, so all you have to do is get around him, and he will go down. And they couldn't even do that with the exception of a couple times from Vinny Curry. It's mind-blowing that you have Cox in there, who I get it, gets double-teamed a lot. You have Brandon Graham on the other side. And then from the other side of the line, from the other D tackle spot and the defensive end, you're really not getting anything. You're not getting anything from anyone.
I mean, not for nothing. Derek Burnett didn't play last night. But, Donnie, it's interesting when they lose and when they have a bad year, everything's magnified. But we all knew going into the season, Derek Burnett and Brandon Graham were not enough. That was a big problem coming into training camp. Who's your third pass rusher? I guess it's Vinny Curry, but we know he doesn't always get there. Who's your next pass rusher? Was Josh Sweat going to show up? And he's actually played okay this year. Deshaun Hall, they just never dress him. But
yeah, that guy showed out amazing in camp, but I guess the coaches don't like what they see on tape. But you know what? I'll get back to this. The trade deadline, when we needed a wide receiver, you know what? We just stole a guy named Avery from Cleveland. Boy, what a nasty pass rusher! Yeah. And
I don't think he's
where. Thanks, thanks for the 4th round pick. We were told how much of a steal this was because he wasn't a scheme fit in Cleveland. Maybe he gets here and he goes like, "Oh shit, man, this is what Cleveland was right. This guy, he has no idea what he's doing out here."
Donnie, let me ask you a question. What did Seattle give up to get Clowney?
A 1, wasn't it?
Was it a 1?
A 1 and something
more.
Else.
Yeah, I think so.
With the current state of this team right now, would you do that right now?
Well, I mean, you would. I mean, if you have because Clowney got hurt, but
well, yeah, but that means no Ruggs. That means no, high-level receiver.
What we're saying is at the time, absolutely, I would have done it. Yeah,
yeah, because you look at all of a sudden, that's a.
Would you guys? Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just gonna say that's a fucking formidable defensive line, especially next year when you get Malik Jackson back and Tim. I don't know if Journey going to still be here, but Ridgeway's back. You're going to get certain guys back. That's a fucking really good defensive line with Clowney on one side, Derek Barnett, and then Graham on the other.
Man, because it makes everybody better because that guy creates mayhem. Remember when we got Javon Curse back in 2004? It wasn't so much that Curse was going to get 16 sacks. It was because he was so fast off the line. The entire offense had to shift toward him and let everybody else go ham.
I still remember, man, how dominant that dude was in 2004, man.
Man, him and Burgess were like Mike Vick quick at defensive end. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
They also, it's the defensive line too. Real quick, last thing on that. I mean. The in my opinion, they're the biggest failure on this team for a couple reasons. One, obviously the production isn't there, but two, this unit, and it's been this way. I mean, you can go back 3-4 years. Part of the reason that's what the organization thinks is, look, we're going to get pressure with these guys in the front four, so it's going to take pressure off the back seven, and particularly the defensive, the secondary, and it just hasn't happened. You see, I mean, you can't ask Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby to cover for 4 or 5 seconds. You can't do it, and as a result, they're getting shredded every week.
I mean, you look at, I will say, I think even with Camus Grugier-Hill not playing, I got to tell you, I thought these linebackers played pretty well. I mean, considering, you have fucking TJ Edwards and Nathan Jerry, one of which who is not even a linebacker. I got to be honest, I know Ryan doesn't like Nate Jerry. I haven't been overly, I don't think he's been horrible. I mean, he's
asked to do too much. Like, you're asking this guy to, when Saquon Barkley's rolling out in the flat to, tackle the guy one-on-one. It's not going to happen. The guy should just be a glorified special teams player when you need him to fill in. He can't be out there that many snaps.
I'll tell you something. You really want to, if you ever want to bash the Eagles, do yourself a favor and just go on their depth chart and look at it.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's wildly bad. They're literally at every position they have, who the fuck is Epps, by the way?
Yeah,
who is
Epps out there last night?
I'm like, oh, man, Omar Epps is out there.
He was the holder. Yeah. He was the holder for the kick, the one that fell off the tee. Let me ask you guys a question. What is this team's obsession with cutting, name guys when they know they need those guys? So, for instance, Zach Brown, okay? I get maybe he didn't fit the system, but he's still better than anything you have, okay? Sendejo, he's another one. Andrew Sendejo. Not the greatest player.
He's had 2 interceptions since he's went to
Minnesota. But do you know why they did this?
No.
Do you know why they moved on from those two guys?
I have no idea.
Compensation picks. It's amazing because they get to, even if they're playing above their pay grade and above their level, the whole analytics of draft picks are way more important than guys that can actually play. You cut Sendejo at that time because he gets you back a 4th-round pick. You cut LJ Fort because he gets you back a 4th-round pick. They don't even think of it as well, maybe this guy can play really good football down the stretch if we're banged up. They cut him because they wanted a 4th-round pick. It's we're only going to sign LJ Fort for the first 6-7 weeks of the season. And even if he is a Pro Bowl middle linebacker, I would rather have a 4th-round pick.
By the way, also, and I'm not saying this guy would ever have been anything, but you mentioned a kick returner.
Yeah.
You cut Blake Countess as well for Andrew Sendejo, okay? When you knew Sendejo didn't fit the system, why the fuck did he make the team over Blake Countess if that was the case? Because Blake Countess is way better than Marcus Epps, and he can return kicks for you. Ryan, you know Blake Countess. He was at Michigan, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
So, I mean, just little things where, like Donnie said, they're so obsessed with picks when, again, I don't know why they're so obsessed with picks because they never make any good picks. But it's really odd. But Donnie, Ryan, let's get to some good things last night. Obviously, I think, for what Carson was dealing with, I mean, last night might have been the worst of any game, Donnie. Every year, every week, he's throwing to these random guys. But last night, in the guts of the game, he's throwing to Josh Perkins, Greg Ward. Boston. I mean, Zach Ertz, obviously. Luckily, he's around, Zach Ertz. But where would they be without Zach Ertz? Did Dallas Goedert even play last night?
He had one catch on that last drive. It was wide open, like a 30.
We got to give him some respect. Arcega Whiteside made a nice play. One of the best catches of the last 5 years, guys.
It was the best catch. That was the catch of the year for the Eagles.
I've been waiting my whole life for that catch right now.
That's what I'm saying. If it's not perfectly thrown to them, they don't catch it.
Nope.
Obviously, the writing on the wall, Boston Scott was very good. I told Ryan, I said, wow, dude, this guy's fast. He's a good player.
He's quick. He's just like Darren Sproles. I mean, he really is. I know that comparison's probably been tiresome the last 24 hours, but it's accurate. I mean, he's the same type of player. He's small. He's shifty. He's quick. That's what he does. He's a change of pace guy. Catches the ball well. Get him in some space. That's what he does. And
seems like they really like him. Seems like they really like him too. And I think this is what they hoped Donnell Pumphrey would be, and it never worked. But he reminds me a little bit of Deion Lewis, Ryan Moats, that kind of player. I'm happy with it. Let me ask you, Brian, next year, if you go into the season with Miles Sanders, Corey Clement, and Boston Scott, are you okay with that?
No.
Who do you want?
I'm not.
Okay, who do
I want? I like them to. I like them to get some sort of like veteran in here.
What if
Jordan
that's
Howard's got to be
like-
cheap
like-
as hell.
like they-
What if they
Howard's got to
keep
be cheap
Howard?
as hell again. He's got to be cheap as hell.
So you'd be good with Howard. I would.
If they could bring him back, sure, absolutely.
Let me ask you, from what you've seen, and let's say it's a cut day, and they've had the same camp, and you've seen Boston Scott and you've seen Corey Clement. Who are you keeping, Ryan? Because Clement's been injured a lot.
I know
2 years.
That's the scary part. So I if there was no injury history, I would lean Clement. But with that injury history, the 2 year, like Donnie just said, I probably would lean Boston Scott.
Is Clement a pass catcher like Scott?
No, he is. But
Okay.
if you're asking about the dimensions of the backfield, because if you're talking about, let's just say this year, right? You got Howard as your lead back, Miles Sanders as your change of pace. The third back has to be a satellite back like a Darren Sproles, which Boston Scott would fit. But if that's not the case where Howard's gone, then you would keep Clement along with Miles Sanders and then add in Boston Scott. But if I don't think there's a place for, if you have a banger, there's no place for Clement. None.
He looked last night like Darren Sproles in New Orleans.
He did.
Just
Played
saying.
really well.
I think they might have struck gold, Donnie. You might be dead wrong on this one. You didn't like Boston Scott. But,
Donnie,
I think I understand why you didn't like Scott. And I think we all anchor the same sentiment with the Eagles. When was the last time they returned a kick for a touchdown? Like,
or how about a nice return? I'm not even talking about a touchdown. How about we took the ball at the 5-yard line and ran it to the 40? What is that?
I'm not even kidding.
They had one of those this year. Sanders had one of those this year. I forget the game, but yeah.
I remember that. But here's
Minnesota,
the last.
maybe?
It seems like the last punt return was the miracle at the Meadowlands, and it seems like the last kick return was Josh Huff against Tampa, I think.
Mhm.
Yep, exactly.
It seems like those were the last. I'm telling you, Dave Phipp should be fired. Dave Phipp has been bad for like 3 or 4 years now. And he just looks like a little child scared on the sidelines every week. Cut his ass loose. Dave Phipp isn't good enough anymore. What's the last time
you know what?
They used to fucking kick all the time. When does that happen again?
You know what's funny about just the state of the Eagles right now, like how we're talking? Remember this whole conversation that we're on right now for the last 3 or 4 minutes was supposed to be like positive stuff, and it just slowly gets
there's nothing positive.
To the negative. It's just funny because that's the team that's the way they are right now. That's funny.
There's not a lot of positivity, and I know they won, but Donnie, let me ask you: time in your life when they were driving for that touchdown, in the back of your head did you say, damn, I wish they'd lose this game?
No, not actually at that moment. I was in the first half. I was all about like losing, but your fandom takes over and realize that sometimes it's just better like crushing the Giants and beating them down, because then you don't want to. And especially the naysayers with Carson Wentz. But I have to tell you, even forget about the last drive. I had everything in my mind when we won the toss in overtime. I'm like, this is setting up for a strip sack fumble. And they're going to go like get the ball on their own on R20, kick a field goal and lose it. I was so impressed with that last drive. You're talking about 3 straight drives in the fourth quarter by Carson Wentz. Should have been touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Instead, you missed the field goal and got the final 2. But he had 3 drives to end the game that should have ended in touchdowns. 2 of them did.
I've said it a couple times this year. Carson has not been great in certain games.
No, he hasn't. And he was bad in the first half. You're right.
When you pull back the onion, and you say, like Ryan brought up the 2017, remember when he diced up like the Broncos and like they scored 50 points that game? You know, he had guys to throw to. I mean, this is a laughable, like I saw Eric Parkala. You know Eric Parkala, Donnie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said that Carson Wentz stinks.
It's awful. And I wanted to comment and say, like, what the fuck are you watching?
Our buddy Joe Lisi, they said there's a lot of negative connotation. Like if you don't watch him in and out, the one thing I like about us three is like we will rip more than praise the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're not like how many podcasts probably out there going like this? I can't wait to play Dallas. We're going to kill them when they get here. Instead of being objective, if you give Carson Wentz anytime he has had any weapons whatsoever, because you say, well, his rookie year wasn't all that great. Dorial Green Beckham was his lead wide receiver. The guy couldn't even remember what the plays were. And then you actually move him in and get him in his second year where he was – and people – I don't understand why they forget this. Up to the Rams game and right up to he blew his knee out and still threw a touchdown pass, he was far and away the single best player in the entire league.
Yeah, he was
MVP. And then he blows his knee out, comes back early, fractures his back. And the whole notion of he stinks. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know where
I don't understand.
But
I don't get it either.
But guys, you know what it is? it's easy to blame the quarterback when the team doesn't play well.
Lazy.
Johnny, you ever go on Twitter and you get those occasional people that reach out to you and you're like, I'm just not even going to argue. I don't have any fucking gumption to argue with this person because you know how stupid they are. Like they don't understand anything, and it's just like I don't even care. But it's like I get people. I opened up my tweet deck this morning. I had like 4 DMs from like egg profiles. Say fat fuck. What happened with Wentz last night, dickhead? And it's like, what do you mean? What happened with Wentz last night? In
the first half. I was going back and forth with so many people. Like, oh, this is terrible. You want this? And all I kept saying was, you don't understand. Nobody will win with this team out here. So you hold him to a higher. Oh, you're just like rose-colored glasses. Then as the game goes on and you see him just dominate and be like, dude, he is so talented. Nobody said anything back. And it's like, oh, well, they're not very good.
Like if you actually sit there and actually watch like the all 22 and the coaches film, like these guys out there get no separation, like none. And and people are like, he holds the ball too long. Well, I mean, he kind of has to when no one's getting open. Now, granted, should he get out there and run some? Absolutely. But I also think this coaching staff is putting it into his head. You can't take hits. You got to stay in the pocket. You got to deliver in the pocket. And I think that's what you're getting that catch-22 right now where he wants to stay in the pocket and make those plays. But on the outside, guys aren't getting open outside of Zach Ertz. So,
it won't be like if Carson Wentz is a Hall of Fame quarterback, we won't look back on this season and say that benefited him in the Hall of Fame. It won't. None of this stuff will. But the fact that they are actually 6-7 with these receivers and this, like everything.
Secondary.
Yeah, it is. I honestly wanted to say I'm a negative guy with the Eagles. Like I expect greatness from them always for whatever reason, but as I look more and more, I just say to myself, "Wow!" Like last night, that catch Arcega-Whiteside, like I yearn for that from this team. Like make plays like that. I want to
play for your quarterback and see how much better he plays. Where he says, you know what? If I throw that ball, like how do you feel if you're Carson Wentz again? All season long, Nelson Aguilar's dropping balls, Arcega-Whiteside dropping balls for game-winning plays that will put you on SportsCenter. Be like, instead of the national media that doesn't see anything, like, wow, man, look at Wentz lead that comeback. And I see him roll out on 3rd and 11 across his body and float a dime to Greg Ward that he doesn't come up with. And everybody be like, well, Wentz can't lead any comebacks.
Yeah, it's his fault. Let me ask you guys.
That was a dime. Ugh.
Let me ask you guys. You got the final 4 teams of college football, okay? Mm-hmm. I'll throw in Georgia with Cager. He's a pretty good receiver. Hamler at Penn State, and maybe one or two. Is there any guy that you wouldn't take over anyone on this team?
I love Hamler. I think Hamler.
I mean, every player,
that type of players is exactly what you need.
But they have they have better receiving cores than the Eagles. Like way better.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How come the Eagles? You know what the one problem I have with the Eagles too, with the wide receiver core? How come they haven't subscribed to the new wave of let's get a really fast guy in the slot that can just destroy a linebacker or a nickel cornerback? No, and we'll slide Aguilar in the middle. Well, he's not an inside guy. We'll put Jordan Matthews in the slot. What am I missing here?
It's all old guys that are like the same body type.
Like you always bring up Cole Beasley. How nice is it for a quarterback? And you saw it even on Sunday when the Buffalo offense couldn't do anything. 3rd and 5, he runs 5 yards and goes either in and out depending on where the positioning of the linebacker or the cornerback is. Yep. And he's wide open where you just throw it out there. It's 7 yards every time.
They had that guy, Jeremy Bloom. And it never
yes, that's true. Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Remember like many years ago?
The skier.
Yeah.
Like think about it. Like who was our slot receivers? Did we ever have like Jason Avant was our slot. Super slow, but could catch and fall down. When did we ever had a slot guy that just like run like Julian Edelman? You know he's getting the ball. He's triple coverage. It doesn't matter.
No, they never have had that. I'm going to say this again. Like they literally act like it's the 70s with like their offense. It's weird.
Even the Adam Humphreys of the world. Like every team has that 5'6", 5'7", like Wooderbug. Even he doesn't though white, black, green. It doesn't matter. We never have that guy. No, I don't get it.
It's so true.
That's why the draft is so important this year because they're not getting that type of player. Via free agency this year, it's not going to happen.
Understand that,
Jeff. I get that. You can say it to the cows come home that they don't draft well. Okay?
No, I'm not going to say that.
Eventually, they're going to have to figure.
No, I wasn't going to say that
because that's the only way that they're going to improve.
I was going to say that. Isn't it scary that we're literally banking the entire future on them correctly picking in the draft next year.
I know, but that's how you win. That's how you win.
But they're not good at it. They haven't been for 30
like
years.
The problem with look, and I will never ever say anything bad about that Super Bowl year. Nothing. It was amazing. We all were thankful for it. It was fantastic. But in a way, it hurt this. I don't want to say it hurt this team. It really hurt this fan base because, like, how they constructed that team, fellas, is not how you're supposed to win. Like, they really just everything fell into place. Everyone, all the key guys they brought in, Chris Long, Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith. I mean, these guys were on the last year or two of their careers and just balled the fuck out. They did not build through the draft. They didn't, and then develop these guys. All of a sudden, you go to the playoffs, you win a game, you lose, then you get back the next year, you get to the championship game, and then you so on and so forth to get to the Super Bowl. It was just like all at once. They got there and they ended up winning it, which was great. But it's just that's not how you're supposed to win. It's not how you're supposed to construct a team. And I think now they're going to have to start to do that where we're expecting, okay, they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Why aren't they still that good? Because the guys that are here now, because the Jeffries are going to be going, Chris Long's going, Torrey Smith is going. They're not substantial players that can fill in and be productive. And that's the way I view it right now.
They've got to be. It's got to be correct. Guys, last week you mentioned that neither of you thought, including me, I didn't think that they would beat Dallas. Does this give you any excitement that maybe they can beat Dallas? I know the news last night. You've got to agree that they're worse than they were last week as far as the overall team because they don't have Lane Johnson and Alshon Jeffrey now. I mean, we saw what this team was without Alshon Jeffrey against the Seahawks. And even back then, you had enough receivers to field a fucking team. You don't. And you not went out and did anything about it. Does anyone think they can beat the Cowboys? Anyone raise your hand if you think they can beat the Cowboys?
No, and you even had Alshon coming back and like, oh, the Dolphins game, he looked good. And, hey, at least you have a wide receiver against the Giants and he goes down. Now you don't have that. Because say what you want about Alshon. If he's right, he's a big target. He's going to make more catches than he doesn't, and he knows what he's doing. And now you just leave it up to a guy where Carson Wentz drops back, and let's just say you have to on the fly make a change in your route from cover 3 to cover 2. You know Alshon's going to know what the coverage is and make the right move. You don't even know what the hell's going on the outside with somebody.
Donnie, let me ask you something. Donnie, let me ask you something real quick. You obviously saw the video of Alshon on the car going into the locker room.
Yes.
When I first saw that, did it strike you the same way as it struck me that he looked like he didn't give a shit?
It was almost like he was chomping on his piece, like, you know what? I hope my foot's down, and I'm glad. Like it's just like he had a relief. Like he had relief.
That's the vibe I got. I don't know if I'm right or if I'm wrong, but honestly, Donnie, that's the vibe I got from him. That I truly think that he didn't look sad. He didn't look mentally like depressed or anything like that. He's just like, okay, whatever. My foot's fucked. I'm out for the year. Whatever.
I've said it for weeks. He doesn't want to play on this team. I've said that for weeks.
It doesn't even make sense. Like, why? Like, you're already beloved because you won a Super Bowl. Like, you tore your, rotator cuff that nobody knew about that year and did all this nonsense to get through it, and you won a Super Bowl. And you have a quarterback that has an absolute rifle. I mean, look, we know you like Nick Foles because you threw a softball and threw your jump balls all day, but you're the singular guy that they want to get the football to. You should have 7, 8, 9 targets every week and having so much fun in this offense. How could you not want to play in this city where you already won and get paid a ton of money? Like, where does he want to go? Like, I don't even understand anymore.
I don't know, but I kind of – that's a good point by you, Ryan. So no one thinks they can win. Is that –
No, and I don't. Dallas has way more talent.
That's exactly. Talent's going to win. Like, they're going to throw one up, and Amari Cooper is going to go 60 yards. And you look at the Eagles, like, oh, all right, let's go 11 plays on this drive to try to get in field goal range.
The Giants didn't do that at all in the second half last night. It was mind-boggling. They kept everything in front of the Eagles were just keeping everything in front of them, and the Giants were not attacking deep. And it was mind-boggling that how much success they had in the first half, and they just went away from it.
All right, one other question, guys. Sunday, you get the Redskins coming in, or you're going there.
Yeah.
We know they're bad. Dwayne Haskins is the quarterback. No Geis, no Kerrigan. They're not going anywhere. They have no coach. I know last night we said I'm done saying get right games. Listen, let's answer
They
the
need to
question.
just win.
Donnie.
Just
yes
win.
or no?
This is
Can
a
you win
survival.
the game? Do they win?
Survive in advance.
Yeah. Is that how it is, March Madness style? Just looking to win the game?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they can. I'm just being real. Like the Washington, and again, we're catching a major break here. Geist the last 2 weeks was running average like 5 to 6 yards per carry. I'm like, oh, here we go. He gets knocked out. Kerrigan gets knocked out. Now, the defense is still better overall, even without Kerrigan, than what the Giants defense is going to have. But the Redskins don't have the weapons. I mean, it's funny to say the Giants have weapons, but they have decent skill position guys. The Redskins don't have that. And you have a rookie quarterback. This defense should not give up again more than 17 points at all to this Redskins team. Maybe 14 points is even too much. But when you look on the offensive side, it's all on Wentz. You know Lane Johnson's not going to be there. They're going to have wide receivers that we're going to laugh at. Midway through the second quarter, it's going to be 3-0 Washington. I see it coming. It's going to be survive in advance where if you hope their quarterback.
It's true.
I mean, it's so true with them too. Like they don't play well on the road. And this is even when they were winning Super Bowls and stuff or won Super Bowl, they were still, I mean, that was a different, I want to take that year out. But let's look back even to like in the 2010s and the 2000s. This team has always struggled against teams they should beat. Like they always have. I remember just certain games where like Washington was coming in here and they're not good and they somehow in the fourth quarter.
It's division games, yeah.
It's a 27-21 game. They're 4.5-point road favorites, guys, on Sunday. I got to be honest.
They just have to find a way.
Yeah, and if you're out there as a betting man, which we are, I'm far the fuck away from this game.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just am because they don't have any receivers. Their only healthy receivers are Whiteside and as we said, Greg Ward, who wasn't even on the fucking team.
I'm telling you right now, like they could tell that Arcega's fine. Trust me when I say this, Jeff. A wide receiver or running back has no idea what his hamstring is doing, and every time you see it, hey, a little cramp, yeah, pull it. No. When you heard it and you have to come out of the game and can't come back in, I don't think he's playing this weekend. I got to be truthful. Like you just heard like a blip. Oh, he should be fine. That's a hamstring injury on a short week and a wide out. Here we go again. Ready? 3 wide receivers active. Arcega Whiteside is one of them. He plays 3 plays and he's on the bench.
I also love how Doug Peterson basically just like glossed over the fact that he didn't want to admit that he dressed 3 receivers. And someone asked him about it. He's just like, yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of just, we had Perk out there and he was
That's what he uses.
And it's
that's what he uses. Yep, the Perkins thing.
Yeah, but it's like, you can't do that.
The league is a passing league. I don't even care if, like, you should have guys, you should start no less than 5 wideouts every single, it doesn't even make sense not to. It really doesn't. It makes zero sense.
If they don't, what if they don't bring anyone in? What if they just think like 3?
We have 2
guys. We'll bring up Mark and Michelle, and we'll make Perkins a receiver.
Well, no, I could absolutely see that. They love going the practice squad route. I believe that's what they're going to.
Now let's remember,
either bring up Mark and Michelle or Jordan Matthews will come to town. No, there is no.
That's the only shot. Yeah, on a short week, there's no other option. You're right.
There's none.
No Dante Moncriefs, none of that. They're not going to do it.
And let's remember, for anyone that isn't aware and watches this team like we do, Greg Ward was not on this team 3 weeks ago. He was on the practice squad. He wasn't on the active roster. And they wouldn't throw out Arcega Whiteside for like most of the season because he was in the doghouse, basically. And those are going to be your 2 starting receivers this week.
Yes.
And
that's where they're at, man. That's why it's hard to get. We like the win versus the Giants because it's fun to win a divisional game. And granted, whenever you still have a chance in football season, it's always fun as a football fan to cheer for a team as long as they have a chance. But it's hard to look at this and just like be positive and say, all right, let's just say we stumble by Washington. And then I don't think we're going to beat the Dallas Cowboys, but you go into the playoffs and the Niners show up and you're like, man, what do we even make the playoffs for?
All right, guys, listen, here's what I'm willing to do, and I think we should do this as a group, us 3. I'm willing to put $1,000 in the pot on this. If Donnie, if you're willing, and Ryan, you can put whatever you want in. Let's all take our money. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys are a 1-point favorite against the Eagles. Yep. Let's all take our money and just bet 1 ticket on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I mean, that we're obviously all on board that the Cowboys are going to win. So
I mean, it's just one of those like weird NFL games where like it looks way too good to be true, and somehow like Dallas just is as inept as the Eagles, and the Eagles find a way at home.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Strip
game's
sack
gonna be
fumble
so
for a touchdown, tip ball, interception.
fascinating.
Yeah.
We got to go to that, guys. Come on, let's go.
I'm actually looking forward to that game just because both teams royally suck, and like it's just going to be like. Who's going to suck?
I don't know, man. I feel like it would be the same. Like every Eagles home game now, if they're injured, like I can imagine because I was a season ticket holder for 17 years. It's my first year not doing it. And I sit home last night and I remember talking to my dad. I'm like, Dad, imagine if we had to go down to this game and you're sitting there at halftime. It's 17-3. I got to tell you,
you'd have left.
I would not have been there for the second half.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was ugly down there last night. It was,
and it would have been fun because they came back and won. But I got to tell you, there's no way in the world I would have stayed down for that football.
Well, I don't know if you saw this.
I don't like this.
You see that little background we have? That's a full house there. I think that was the NFC Championship day, or no, it was maybe
night game.
It was the Falcon game. I think that year.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It was nowhere near that field last night. There,
no,
nowhere near.
And who would want it? Like you're talking on a rainy night against a team we all know isn't going anywhere. The Giants are horrible.
Now, Donnie, this is kind of interesting, and I want to bring this up to you.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know the night before the Dallas Eagles play. You know what the night before is, right?
Army Navy, right? Or no, that's this weekend.
Well, no. What big event's going on that day before? December 21st.
I don't know.
A party.
I
mean, are you sense it? I mean, I don't think you'll stay, but I mean, 425 and maybe the wife might leave, and you can,
Yeah.
You can get on a red eye and get.
I mean, you could take the Amtrak back. I mean,
yeah.
But we should go to the game. I've been saying it. We should all go.
I can't, man. I can't imagine spending money on this.
We'll spend money to go down there, and the game will be like 27-3 Dallas. You'll be like, "What the hell, Jeff? You made us go to this game."
Yeah. Why did we go to this game? Exactly. That's the thing about 27-3 games. It's like if they lose, it's like, well, at least I'm in my nice house and like I have like a nice pizza.
And I'm watching the next game that's about to come on at night. I'm relaxed.
Yeah, and I'm showered. I'm feeling good. Yeah. But it's like, let's say they lose. You know it's gonna be cold. It's December 21st. You got Christmas coming up, so you got to buy all that shit. And you're down there. It's 24-3. It's cold. You're parked like a mile away, so you have to walk that whole fucking way.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Do they win Sunday, fellas?
Yes, they will win Sunday, but they will not win.
Like ridiculousness. What nail biter? Like
17-16 at the
exactly. Yeah,
I'm going to say 17-13.
Where they need a stand where you got to stop Dwayne Haskins.
A little special teams report. Jake Elliott needs to stop missing kicks, and Cameron Johnston is the best player on this team. Outside of
good
Wynn.
punter. Yeah, we always have good
punters.
He is good.
Yeah, they do a good job with punters.
Yeah, they do
surprisingly.
Really do a good job with
From
punters.
Sean Landetta to
Donnie
Sav
even
Rocca.
kickers for the most part. Like we haven't had a kicker that is just blown in a long time, man. They actually do a really good job with their kicking.
Jeff, was Severio Rocca one of the ugliest players?
He was ugly, yeah.
My man Sadie.
Golly.
All right, it's time for trivia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Ryan, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start with you, Ryan. In 2003, who led the Eagles in sacks?
Jesus.
2003. So this is the year before they won the Super Bowl, or this is the year they won the Super Bowl?
It's the year they won this. Before
this would have been the Panthers season when they lost to the Panthers in the conference championship game. I'll go with.
I gotta guess. I don't think it's right.
Derek Burgess?
Incorrect. Donnie, do you know who it is?
I'm gonna say there's something because that was the year that they were so beat up on the defensive line. I'm gonna go with like a Juquay Parker.
He wasn't even there. It was.
I don't think he was there yet. Yeah,
he was in like the 2009 and 10. It was Corey Simon.
Look at that,
bro! That was my second guess.
They had like Frank Ferrara that year. They brought in. Oh my, they were so down. First of all, that was Andy Reid's best coaching job of all time in 2003. That was the year even Westbrook got injured.
Wasn't that the year they lost the first two games of the season at home?
Correct. That would be correct.
Bucks
And the
and
Patriots. Yes.
Bucks and Patriots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Donnie.
Correct. Yeah.
Who was the player involved in the Terrell Owens from San Francisco trade? He left the
Brandon Whiting.
That's so easy.
Yeah, Brandon.
Well,
how about that? Would you like to go back and revisit that deal? We gave up Brandon Whiting for T.O.
How bad of a
What
trade?
a joke.
That's highway robbery.
God.
Wow, man.
Okay, Ryan. What player attended this college? Washburn.
Oh man, this is
probably the only player
I think
ever.
Jeff's all-time favorite player.
That's
too.
Kerry Williams.
It is Kerry Williams. Yes, the much maligned Kerry Williams.
Jeff, you know I'm good at where did people go to
That's
college.
pretty good.
I'm
Yeah.
good at that.
All right, Donnie. Here's one for you.
Almighty.
What player famously jumped off sides October 11th, 2000
Against the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah,
It was the Bucks?
And Merrill Reese famously said,
it was the Bills.
I thought it was he jumped.
I thought it was the Buffalo Bills. It was the Bucks, you said?
It was the Bucks, yeah.
No, it was the Bills. I thought it was the Bills.
No, it was the Bucks. I looked it up.
There might have been another one here.
Which player famously
the one?
it was 2011, October 2011.
It wasn't
Donnie
Juquay Parker?
It was Juquay.
Yeah.
It was Juquay Parker.
Yeah,
I
Merrill
thought there was
Reese-
one on the Bills game where we had like a minute and a half to go in the game, no timeouts, and the other team was punting, and for some reason we jumped
fourth
offside.
down, and they I thought it was the Bills game.
And I remember famously Merrill Reese made the comment, they cannot jump.
I remember I almost was like about to break like my window. That's back in the, I was a little bit younger at that time, but I remember that like it was number 4 because it was like a fake play where you knew they weren't snapping the ball and he jumped.
Correct.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he basically said don't jump, and then Juquay Parker jumped, and he goes, he jumped.
Oh, so
Juquay
bad.
Parker jumps.
Yeah.
All right,
It was
Donnie, I got
against
one
the
more.
Bucks. Wow.
I got one more for you.
Yes.
Which player famously played fullback and went to Rice University?
Fullback and went to Rice.
Correct.
H-back, Don. He played fullback / tight end too. So if that helps you out at all, because I know the answer to this one.
I don't know. Who was it?
Chip Kelly years. I'll give you a hint.
James Casey.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, first guy they actually signed in the free agency that year when Chip Kelly came over.
Correct.
Big
All
money
right.
they gave him too.
Ryan, I got another one for you.
Okay.
Week 6 in 2001,
Jesus, dude.
the Eagles had lost 9 straight games to the Giants.
Yes.
Oh, I remember this game. I got a
Monday
story
Night
about this game.
Football.
And they won this game 10-9.
Donovan
Uh-huh.
Nabbed
Who caught the
trash.
winning touchdown?
Yo, I
James
know.
Thrash.
Yo, what a
James
great
Thrash.
catch too. Yeah.
You want to listen to this? Listen to this story. I actually
Mhm.
told this story not too long ago. So 2001, I would have been like 12 years old, 11 years old, right? And at that point, I mean, I'm still a kid, right? So, I do what my parents tell me like a good little Catholic boy. And my mom says, look, halftime, you got to go to bed. And they were getting killed. They couldn't do shit in that game. They couldn't do anything offensively. And I was like, come on, let me stay up. She's like, no.
It's great
you
how
gotta go to
young
bed,
you
baby.
guys are. I love it.
And I was like, okay. Woke up the next morning, turned on Comcast Sportsnet Sports Rise, saw that they won, went nuts, literally went in, woke my mom up and said, I'm never missing another Eagles game.
It was because how big was that
time.
win? We never beat the Giants. It was
huge.
such a big win. I loved it. It was like we
Yep.
won I'd never experienced like a Super Bowl, and at that point, Eagles really were making a ton of runs throughout the late '90s. That was such a fun win, and did it in Giant Stadium. And I think one of the last plays of that game, I think maybe Jeremiah Travis, somebody had strip sack fumble on Kerry Collins and just sealed it. Oh, it was such a great win. God damn, that was good. Good one.
One more, Donnie.
Yeah.
What player from Chickasha, Oklahoma, was drafted by the Eagles? Actually, was undrafted and was claimed by the Eagles in 2003. He went to Tulsa.
Jesus.
Oh, I have a guess on this. No.
Now, don't say it, Ryan. He also went and played for the Niners and Dolphins. He was a practice squad all-season.
I don't know.
Sam Rayburn.
Oh, there you go. Tulsa. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's a tough. That's one. Oh, I think
Him and Paul Grass-Manis, two geniuses, man.
They had some classic guys, man.
They did.
Doug Brzezinski.
All right, we're out of here, guys. So give me a final score on
7.
I got. There you go. Yep. Me and Ryan. Same. I'm telling you, same thing. Nobody gets to 20 in this game, which means the Eagles will probably put up 30.
So under 40.
Under 40. Like who are we hitting off deep? Who are we hitting off deep? Nobody. And
I mean, this is a bad defense.
I'm gonna put this call. You're like this, Jeff. Guaranteed Boston Scott fumbles this weekend.
Stop, dude. Why are you knocking this guy, man? All right, Ryan, what's your final score?
Yeah, like I said, 17-16. Yeah. It's going to be right around that. I would be very surprised if it wasn't around 20-17 would be my absolute ceiling for this game.
We're lucky if rookie starting a quarterback. We're like I'm telling you, Ryan, if Colt McCoy starts this game, we have no shot. That how crazy is that? If Colt McCoy or Case Keenum starts for Washington, we would lose this game. We got Eli Manning who wants nothing to do with football, and we got a rookie who has no idea what's going on. It's going to what a facade as we come up against the Cowboys, the number one offensive football.
They have the easiest schedule on paper the last 4 games of the season, and it's like pulling teeth trying to talk us into saying.
And watch this: we'll get beat by the Giants week 17 after we beat the Cowboys and lose the division.
Can you imagine? Oh no!
All right, no. I'm gonna go 21-13 Eagles.
Nice.
I think they cover.
Get it.
I hope that'd be great. That'd be great.
How many
fellas? How many blowout? How many comfortable? I say quote unquote comfortable games have we had this year against the Jets?
Bills.
And the Bills. Was that it?
Which wasn't even that comfortable till late.
And Chicago was comfortable until they came back and cut it to a touchdown. And things got dicey late. So I think 2. Yeah, really only one comfortable game was that Bears game. Or, Jets game.
And then week 1, we down 14-0 right off the bat, was it?
Yeah.
To the Skins? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go, I do want to say, Donnie, you would agree that who's the public going to bet this week? They're not betting the Eagles.
They ain't betting the Eagles. Either. No, they're going to bet the Redskins because everybody's going to say, I just watched the Eagles. They have nobody who can play. And meanwhile, they're not even watching the Redskins, but just you saw that on national TV, how bad the Eagles look. Oh, my God, I'm getting 4. That's what you know that's coming.
All right, guys, we're out of here. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us. We're trying to build this up, see how it goes. It's just fun talking Eagles. It's good to get the guys together.
It really is.
We'll be back next week. We'll see. Hopefully, we're talking about an Eagles win, and we're getting ready for Dallas week down in South Philadelphia. But with this team, you never know. I don't want to hear anyone fucking reach out to me and say, this is a get-right game, big man. Shut the hell up. There ain't no get-right
game. Get-right means you have an offense to get right. Good Lord, man.
Yeah, the get-right game is
exactly.
I mean, are they much better than the Redskins?
No.
To be honest?
No, right now.
No.
I can't wait for Terry McLaurin to beat Ronald Darby about 4 or 5 times.
It'll happen. He'll get a couple for sure.
Yeah. All right, we're out of here. Follow Donnie on Twitter at RightSideVP. Follow Ryan at D18. You can follow me at Jeff Nader. Make sure you check out all the videos on the channel. These 2 guys and I do a show every day at 1 o'clock. Make sure you check that out. Have a great night. See ya.